Welcome to the Tenant Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson here in Denver, Colorado, and I'm joined by my good friend and partner, Wes Brown.
Hey, Todd. Hey, guess what? This week, you're a co-partner extraordinaire. Well, congratulations. Last 2 weeks, I've had it. This week, it's yours.
I don't know what to say to that. I don't want to be extraordinary.
You can just say thank you, Wes.
Thank you, Wes.
You're welcome. I'm really excited today. We got a great guest, and this is going to be a different path than we've been doing, at least recently, if ever.
Yeah. So we always try to mix it up on the podcast, and tonight is no exception. It's a cold, snowy night here in Denver, Colorado, and joining us, we have Kat Nechleba. Kat, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
Kat is a artist. She's a psychotherapist and an art therapist. And so we have a lot to unpack this evening, a lot to talk about. Kat, are you originally from Denver?
No, not at all. I'm actually from the Southeast, which is a very broad statement. So I've lived kind of all over the Southeast. My father was a lieutenant colonel in the military, and his father was also a colonel in the military. And it all kind of stems from NASA is sort of a thing. So Houston, Texas, Huntsville, Alabama, Georgia, Connecticut, DC, Tennessee, spent a lot of time in New Orleans kind of thing. So I'm a little bit from all over, but adolescence from Jonesboro, Arkansas.
Okay.
Nice.
Nice.
That's mostly what I claim.
So was your father in the Air Force?
Military.
Just military, period.
Military artillery.
Okay.
I get confused. There's like Navy,
Marines, Army, and Air Force, and Coast Guard. Army. Okay.
He's Army.
There we go.
He was the guy in charge of the weapons.
There we go.
That one.
I was in the Marine Corps for 10 years, so
right.
I always like to know what
service.
branch. Well, thank you. And we're honored that your father and your grandfather were military as well. So that's cool. Well, that's cool that you grew up in the Southeast, kind of, that you identify that.
Yeah. I love it down there. I kind of miss it. I love Denver. So I always say if I were to live anywhere in the United States of America, it would always be Denver, because I truly believe that Colorado, specifically Denver, is the most beautiful place that we have here. However, the barbecue, the po' boy sandwiches, the blues, those things I miss. But everything else, the view, everything's beautiful. The people, the personality, I love it here. So I'm happy to be here now. This is my chosen place to be.
That's awesome.
How long have you lived in Denver?
6 years.
6 years. Right on.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found it to be a pretty welcoming art community?
I have been, and that's primarily because in 2007, I would once or twice a year have an art exhibition out in Denver. So I did that every year until I moved here. And then unfortunately, I moved here at the time that Denver blew up, so it was kind of like a little bit poor timing, but I got to see it right before, where people were having galleries out of their house, out of their basement. It seemed like somebody could be a school teacher or a bartender or, I don't know, or work at the UPS and still own a gallery. And I would be able to get into those spaces. And I would always sell art here, in contrast to other places, because Denver loves weird art.
That's awesome.
And that's what really made me end up coming here once I was finished with all my school and those things. So my dream was to end up here, and I fulfilled that. So
nice. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid moving around, were you artistically inclined? Were you doing art as a child? Yeah.
I was the weird new kid in school that made friends via making art. My mother was a community theater director, right? So a lot of times we would move to a new place and she would start work. Like my father was always out doing military stuff, and that went either from being in Birmingham or from a lot of different bases to somewhere else in the world, So my mother was around, and her being in community theater enabled me to always hang out in the costume rooms. Pretty much I would go to school and I would hang out in the costume rooms, and I would hang out with set designs and put on like beards and weird costumes and draw and go into what I called imagination land or whatever. And so I entertained myself with art. So it was always supported and definitely a fun thing. Yeah. So I always did art because that was just my jam, and that was something that was universal. No matter where I was at, art was always a thing I could do.
Were you an only
find
child?
My people.
Were you
no?
No. Okay.
In the middle.
Okay.
The oddball middle. I have an older brother who's a karate teacher.
Nice.
And a little sister who is a professional dancer.
Wow.
So
cool.
middle runt that made art. So we were kind of a creative family.
Yeah. From martial arts to performance arts to visual arts. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We hit all the spectrums.
So when you said imaginary land, I really started to peg you as an only child, because that's kind of an only child thing, because I'm an only child, and man, I was always in imaginary land, playing, that kind of stuff. So yeah. No, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think is since we moved around so much, our parents were really inclined to be like, all right, we're in a new state. You have to make friends, right? So let's put you in after school programs. So we did them all. I danced, never got into karate. I hated acting, but for me, it was just me, a pen and a paper.
Nice.
That's what I did. So even though we were all very connected, we were all kind of in our own world. So I think that my siblings could pretty much say the same thing.
So you decided to go to art school out of high school. Is that correct?
I did.
And you ended up where?
Kansas City Art Institute. It was amazing. So I ended up in Kansas City Art Institute. I thought that I was going to become a painter because that was my favorite thing to do. However, my adolescent years were spent in Jonesboro, Arkansas, which is very thick in the Bible Belt, and has a very myopic lens of what is allowed to do if you want to be creative, which sounds really abstract, but it's the West Memphis 3 happened there, if you're aware of those documentaries. And so it was kind of a strange place, but so little things like I really wanted to be in wood shop. Like I was really into that, but I couldn't because I had to be in home ec because I was a woman. Right. So as soon as I went to the Kansas City Art Institute, I learned that I could create art with blow torches and weld and make things that exist in this real world, and not just have to rely on the imaginary world of like hanging out in the costume closet of this theater set design, and or paint a painting that would be like a world that I wish that I could be in. Instead, I could create art that was in my world, which kind of mirrored youth, I guess, in a way, which was good.
So when you're at the Institute in Kansas City, was there a specific focus you did, or did you just kind of dabble in a lot of different areas?
I dabbled in a lot. Let's see. Oh, I did dabble in a lot. Like it was almost interdisciplinary. Like when I was in sculpture, I was doing a lot of weaving, and I was doing a lot of painting, and I was doing a lot of performance art. And so I was kind of like that strange, random sculptor who wanted to put on a pop-up performance that involved dyeing textiles and circus arts and I don't know, boxing and ballet. So I kind of did everything, but the sculpture world was definitely for me, because for me that was kind of, or at least there at the Kansas City Art Institute, it was the place for the kind of like the wild card kids. So it was the place where you could do whatever you wanted. Like ceramics was one that I really wanted to get involved with, but everything was so technical, and I really appreciate that. But in sculpture, you could like, oh, let's throw sawdust into this mud and see how it turns out, and pour some salt on it and stay up for 24 hours and watch the way it burns in a trash can, and, chemistry. So I kind of went with the crazy pack. Like it was, it just kind of worked out, and I think that's always been sort of my philosophy with making art, is just do whatever you want.
Right.
So that was my tribe, and that's what I was drawn to.
Yeah. You can definitely see that in your art. The stuff that you have on your website. I haven't had the opportunity to see it in person, but the stuff on your website is amazing. And I can see that you're always experimenting. And to me, that's, as a photographer that is a pretty straightforward photographer, that's kind of what I do. I'm always amazed with people that just take all these different mediums and kind of meld them together into something really creative, and I can see that now that you mentioned, it sounded like your world kind of went from like this black and white to like Technicolor once you got to art school and you were given free reign to just experiment and play and just do whatever you wanted. Is that true?
Absolutely. 100%. That being said, I have a huge appreciation for anyone who has the attention span to study all the f-stops, all the photography stuff. I wish I could do it, but I have ADD, anxiety. I want to know it all. So I always kind of consider myself a jack of all trades and a master of none, which is a positive and a negative at the same time. But I just don't have the attention span for it. But fortunately, going to an art school, I could always have a buddy and say, hey, will you help me out with this? Help me document my work because I do not understand lighting. Help me audio engineer this song that I made out of weird instruments or something along those lines. So yeah, a little bit all of it. So interdisciplinary.
Yeah. So how did you decide on that particular art school?
Well, in high school, I was a bit of a wild card. So I wanted to do everything. I was kind of like, if I were to sum it up label-wise, like hippie, punk, skateboarder, anarchist kind of thing, So I feel like it was like I always relied on that. And I always had like a group of friends of misfits, if you will, And so there would always be like a collective of like, hey, you're good at this and you're great at this. And what if we got together and created this insane thing that none of us could do alone? So I think that's what really drove me into the multidisciplinary field.
So is it a psychotherapy? Is it a reaction of growing up in a structured family? I'm assuming, once I'm painting with a broad brush, military, very structured, coming from that Southeast, that's very, like you said, Bible Belt. Is it a rebellion of that?
I'm positive. It is completely nurturing my inner teenager. That's what it is. And I hope it continues to do that into my 90s.
Yeah.
That's it. The patience, I completely respect like masters in their own field. So you're the best at it. Come on in, help with this. Maybe I can be the best at something else, and let's mend worlds, both get credit for it and just sort of figure it out and create something beautiful, different, and unique that no one else has seen.
Yeah, I like it.
So when you got there at the Institute of Art, did you explore the medias that they had to offer before you chose one, or how did that work? Or you just thought sculpture's where it's at?
It was a journey. So the first year at Kansas City Art Institute is foundations. And I don't know if this is around, I don't know if this is a normal thing with most art institutions, but the first year, freshman year, you have to pretty much do all of it. Semester one, you get paired with a very avant-garde, strange teacher, which is perfect for all these little baby brains, 18-year-olds thinking that they know what they want to be for the rest of their lives, right? Like, I mean, you're a teenager and you're like, I'm going to be an artist when I grow up, right? So they kind of dive you into that, and then they tear it apart. So my first semester there, I was paired with Steve Whitaker, who just retired recently. And I believe he has a few public works out here in Denver. He's got them all over the world. He's a sculptor, but he made us draw shoes for, what's a semester, like 4 months. So my first step into foundations or art school was drawing shoes. There was a class of 12 of us, I believe, and he said, okay, go to the thrift shop and buy 2 pairs of shoes. And so we all did that. We didn't have any money, so half of us stole them. We're like, oh my God, thrift shop. We're not going to be able to eat, let alone did we know the cost of paper at the time, right? All that stuff. So we drew shoes, and we drew those for about 15 hours a day, August through November, December. And that started with, draw just the tip of the shoelace, or draw the sole down to draw the entire shoe. Now draw it at 6 feet. Now rip it apart and draw it again. And I have I don't know if it was traumatizing or beautiful, but there was this moment where, you would dream of your art. I'm sure you can connect with that when you're working on something so much. It won't leave your mind, right? So I remember this one time in particular that my teacher, I was drawing for 15 hours in charcoal on the 6-foot piece of paper of this shoe that became my arch enemy. And I accidentally ended up getting 4 hours of sleep. And he comes into my dorm room, he kicks it down, and he pulls me out of bed and he's like, get back to the studio. You have to draw this shoe. And that was semester 1 of art school. It was intense. I am sad that he retired because I became really great at illustration. But I'm also kind of glad he retired so no one else has to do that again. But every teacher had something like that. There were 4 different ones. There were morning classes and there were evening classes. So I was in the evening class, but you spent all your time in studio, so it wasn't very relevant. Other people drew tree stumps, so like the lines of the insides of trees. What was another one? A box, like a white paper box around a white room with one spotlight on it. And you had to figure out how to paint shadows without using pure white or, of course, black or gray tones. It was torture. But man, that's how it's boot camp. Mm-hmm. That's what they called it. And then the second semester you got to pick, I was really into fibers. I did ceramics. What else? Letter printing, printmaking, all of those things. But there was one for sculpture where you just you had an anvil, like a community anvil, and a piece of metal, like copper, something that's very malleable. And you just sort of chopped away at it to create a sculpture on its own. And there were no rules with that. Like, it was just like, here's the foundations. First thing you need to know, part 1 of year 1 of art school, drawing, painting. Part 2, wild card, we're not giving you any rules, Or there was another one where it was, you have cardboard. Now make something out of cardboard for 3 months straight on 2 hours of sleep. And this was a normal thing. This wasn't like like sucking up to the class to be the best or anything. You have hot glue and cardboard. And what I think it instilled within all of us, what I hope the intention was that you can make art out of anything. That or they were just extremely cruel. It's a fine line. It was awful. But
how can we mess with these young girls? Yeah. How can we mess with these young people?
It was horrible. It was horrible, and probably also the most beautiful year of my life, which is creatively. So fine line.
Yeah. It sounded like they really pushed you and really pushed you out of your comfort zone, made you think in different ways. And, you know, even though it was difficult, you wouldn't change that for the world, right? Like,
not at all.
You learned so much in those 2 semesters that you wouldn't trade it for the world.
Right. I think it was quite brilliant. You know, what do you do with a shoe and what do you do with cardboard for, you know, more than you should be, you know, sleep delirium kicks in. Like, you're still stuck with the cardboard, you know?
I would imagine too that it weeds out the people that really don't want to be there pretty quick.
Oh, it did. Yeah. Yeah. I just didn't want to go back to the Bible Belt, so I just did it.
I'm gutting it out here.
Yeah, it was tough, but worth it. I mean, that being said, I'll never work with cardboard or ever draw a shoe again, but I know that I can if I choose to, which I don't know. I hope I never do that again.
So you got a bachelor's in fine art.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where do you end up after art school? Did you start working as an artist or?
Lots of things. So in art school, so then I went into a sculpture department, but again, I was the person that kind of did everything. I created like when I went into sculpture department, everyone kind of had a niche, right? Like, oh, I want to be Anish Kapoor, or I want to be Koons. You know, everybody wants to be something. And I caught myself in this loop of, oh, I'm making feminist art all the time. And I got really over that, like, oh God, I'm going to be another feminist artist. Like, this is like that's too much. Like, that's also almost, it's not cliche because it's very much needed, but I didn't want to be in a niche. So I began making instruments out of found objects. I started making like photo theremins, which I still play today. There's one back here in my gong. So I created these, I remember I created these kaleidoscope goggles that you would have to strap to your head. And they had these photo theremins on it, meaning that you can't see anything but infinity, and you would just have to walk around and rely on a light source to be able to get you to a certain path. So I got really into sensory art, and then music, which followed me through into work after school. So I'll never forget the time where we're about to graduate, and I asked my teachers, so what kind of job can I get with this? And they just looked at me and laughed, the most terrifying laugh I've ever heard in my life. Like, what are you going to do with your art degree as a sculptor? That's a really funny concept. So I became a bike mechanic. I became a musician. I became an art teacher. I worked with a bunch of traveling writers and kind of took them to, they would come in and they would introduce new books, all underground, and then I would take them to the underbellies of Kansas City to show them Weird Times. So it was all a very strange background, but I made a list of all these jobs that I used to have for you guys, but it's just, I'm looking at it, I'm reflecting on all of it now, and all of it's nonsensical. So after art school, I got into an artist residency with Charlotte Street Foundation, which is a great place, and they're still happening. They give you a free art studio for 2 years. They give you continuing art education. They also bring in visiting artists. I had a solo exhibition every year, mostly because they would promote emerging artists, especially just out of school. I did a lot of stuff, but I was working nonstop all the time as an artist. And eventually, through a few existential experiences with all these strange jobs I had, I went into art therapy because I realized that was more aligned with my path than just teaching art. I wanted to be able to have art that wasn't just strictly in the art galleries. I wanted to bring it to underprivileged places. And by that, I mean places without grocery stores in the neighborhood, or places where art's respected. I can recall working at the Boys and Girls Club, and my first week there, I was hired as an art teacher and eventually made it to assistant art director. So I oversaw 5 of them in the greater Kansas City area. And my first week there, they're like, congratulations, you're the art teacher. Here's the art room. They haven't taught art in 3 years. And the art room was a storage room with basketballs, with files, with like extra tables. I mean, it was really sad. So my first week I was cleaning it out, and a shank fight with middle schoolers came out right in front of my classroom. And I haven't even worked with students yet. And they're just screaming and fighting. And they've got this old, like a toothbrush that they melted and filed down to cut each other with. Like it was super weird. But I jumped out in the middle of them, and I physically picked one up, which I know is not okay to do today, and I put him in the art room. And fortunately by then I had tables cleared out, I had paint out, I had paper, had not even had a class yet. And the girl that I grabbed, who was the one being attacked, she was having a panic attack. And I just put her there, and she was shaking and having all these traumatic, weird things that happen when you're in PTSD and in shock, fight or flight. And I had all this paint, and I said, what color paint do you want? She said, red. And I said, here's a paintbrush. And she just grabbed the paintbrush and she just started stabbing the paper, which I today I see as like a natural response to what she was going through. And still hyperventilating, I said, let's introduce green, let's introduce purple, yellow. And she slowly was able to sort of smooth it out and create this rainbow, or this really interesting abstract painting. And it was at that moment that I realized, wow, art really helps with life and trauma. And that was essentially the time. I mean, there are a lot of stories after that, of course, but that's what led me into becoming an art therapist. So
wow, that's an amazing story.
Right after college, not like, yeah. So
you had that epiphany, and you decided that you were going to pursue a master's, a dual master's, correct?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And both. So, go ahead, Wes.
I was just going to say, so let's just take a moment and really, can you define for our listeners, like what is art therapy, and, in the traditional sense of how you practice it, and what does that entail?
There's a few different ways to do it. And I was talking to Todd earlier in the week about how it's practiced differently throughout the country and throughout the world. It kind of started in the 70s. So the way that I follow through with it is art as therapy, right? However, there are other ways of going about it as the way it connects with neurology, right? So we can all relate to, oh, I'm so angry. And I mean, that's an extreme example, right? Like, I'm so angry, I'm freaking out. I've got to just like finger paint, just like, get it all out. In a traditional sense, it is more akin of the line of kinesthetic and sensory. So tactile, like moving a pen, like using the energy, like punching clay, smelling oils, movement, things like that. And by doing that, you're able to you light up certain parts of your brain that are easier to connect with cognition, which are easier to connect to logic, which helps make sense of things, because language is a clunky communication. So that kiddo that I was just referencing, she was out, PTSD, she's done, right? She can't, it's freak out time. Words won't work. Like, all you can do is just swing or run or hide or freeze, right? But because she was able to slow down and move her body and see these colors and feel as though she was safe, she was able to center more and be able to realize she was in a safe space. Then further discuss about why that fight happened and how it can't happen again, and process those emotions. So that's just one example. I mean, I'm a full believer in that everyone's a very unique individual. So it's not the same as it breaks my heart when I hear of people seeing a therapist, and you can tell they just open up a textbook and they're like, oh, this is happening, so you do A, B, or C, and that's the cure-all. It's kind of like giving someone psychopharmaceuticals and like, oh, there's the happy pill, you'll be done. There's actually work to be done, and it involves a neural network in your mind. But art and movement and sound, lots of things are able to connect that better, because again, language doesn't work all the time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked to numerous artists on the podcast that, see their artwork that they do as their therapy,
Mm-hmm.
everything from alleviating actual physical pain
Mm-hmm.
to helping them focus.
Mm-hmm.
One woman in particular has talked about her bipolar disorder, and when she's able to create and do her art, it really helps her, focus her life in, as opposed to being, all over the place. How do you decide when you utilize art therapy, or is there a specific type of, is it like PTSD type things that you use art therapy for, or is it people
all of it?
All of it. So you have to suss out the situation and decide if art therapy is the right avenue to the right thing to utilize to help people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And not always. So I use a combination of talk therapy, which is psychotherapy, stems from great grandfather Freud, who had brilliant ideas, but such terrible ideas. Penis envy is not a real thing, Oedipal complex, like there's a lot there, but I truly believe, and most art therapists would agree with me, you start with conversation, right? And, but you can't always express things in words, or because sometimes you end up storytelling, right? So if you go through a traumatic event, or, you were out with a friend the other day, right? So she said this, and then this happened, and this happened. And then people just get stuck in the story and they lose the context, the emotion, the meaning behind all of it. Art, movement, sound, play, a lot of those things can help express that much easier. And by expressing those things in whatever creative form you will, it is also acts as an affirmation of how to process that information. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes I
No,
you're
that's
right
great.
on.
But okay. Yeah.
So I want to interject real quick.
Okay.
So, and not to go off on a different tangent, but then, so art therapy as opposed to psychotherapy. So
Yes.
How would you describe, like in a nutshell, what psychotherapy is, other than you kind of did a little bit, I suppose, but.
Yeah. Psychotherapy, talk therapy. And that can go into a lot of different fields. My primary version, how I perform talk therapy, is I'm an existential and transpersonal psychotherapist. There's lots of different ways. There's interpersonal, there's humanitarian. I do a little bit of all of them. Gestalt is kind of the worst. So you have to, for anyone who's listening, when you look for a therapist or a psychotherapist, it's just like dating. You aren't going to find the right one first. Like, it's okay. But people have their own things, right? So Gestalt psychotherapy, right, is, you can find them on YouTube. It's like, say you're in front of a therapist and you're nervous. So when we're nervous, we clench our hands, we rock our feet, we sweat, bodies are weird. Like they're just weird meat suits and they react. And we try to, and side note, a panic attack is like, here's the mind and here's the body, and it's trying to integrate and make sense. And everything comes out really scary and weird, unpredictably, and never at the right time. And it's just a shit show. And we all deal with it. Like nobody's special. Nobody doesn't deal with this, So that's a thing. But Gestalt therapy would be like, why are you shaking your foot like that? Why are you playing with your hair? Like what's going on with that? For me, that works. That's very authoritarian. That would work for me, but I would never go back. And I would feel so much shame and embarrassment. And I wouldn't know how to go to the fucking grocery store after that. Like I'd be so paranoid of everything. So that's just one example of different forms of psychotherapy. But you break it down, psyche is the mind. Doesn't mean psychotic. Doesn't mean that. And then therapy, but it's all talk therapy. Because really it's, look, you look at a AA, all kinds of group therapy. You just sit around and you talk and you feel not so lonely and realize that we all truly are connected. Unfortunately, we're even connected to the politicians we hate. We all have the exact same emotions. It is what it is. Humans, we are special. We also are not, right? So psychotherapy is primarily it's talk therapy.
Okay.
And there's different genres. Yeah. And then art therapy is the extra level of tuning into different parts of the brain to help communicate the talk.
You're actually connecting or firing off different synapses when you're doing something that's very tactile. Exactly.
Which also goes into the dopamine receptors, which we all know, like that helps with depression when you get those flowing, adrenaline, all those things. It's all connected. But things such as, Gestalt therapy, that would work perfectly for my father, right? Mm-hmm. Weapons, like this is it, versus for me, who is much more of a free spirit, wild child, I would just freeze up and it would not work for me because I would want to fight it. Right. So it's just finding the language that works for you.
I got a question, and this is a therapy question. And Todd, I'm sorry if we're going off on a tangent, but
no, it's all good.
So I've known people that have been in therapy and they've been in therapy for absolute forever. Is there a point where when is enough where you should be like, okay, fly away, little bird, because now you got everything you need.
Yeah.
I know some people probably their psychosis is so ingrained and from as a young child that you maybe never work through it, but it just seems like, as a layman, like, dude, there's a point where you have to.
I know.
And so what's your take on that?
It's a two-part fold. It's philosophy and it's ethics. So one of the really crappy things about it is that people don't really know about therapy. Like we see all these self-help books and, turn on daytime TV, Dr. Phil, he's not a therapist, there's so much stuff going on. So ethically, what you're right as a client, what everyone's right as a client is, and what everyone's position as a therapist is, as you start with you do an intake just as you were to go see a GP, a general practitioner. You have, it's so tricky without guides. Like I could send you my intake things, but what I do and what everyone needs to do is what are your main issues? Here are 3. And then there's a few things, and it's a 10-week goal. What are we going to focus on these 10 weeks? And then on week 8, week 9, prepare the person. And then at week 10, reassess. Have we actually worked on these? How have I failed as a therapist? Is there anything you can be accountable? What do we need to shift? So that's a big issue. So that being said, I've had clients who I've been working with for years, and that's because and I always do the 10-week assessment. And that's because life throws you curveballs. Dear God, is COVID a strange time to be a therapist and a client and a human, right? But you always need to reassess every 10 weeks what's going on, and of course, everything's unique. So I've worked with a huge variety. I've worked in prisons. I've worked in foster care. I've worked with children with AIDS. I've worked with hospice. I've worked with survivors of the cartel who were children. I pretty much done every demographic you can think of. That's a broad statement. There's always more, but you always do the assessment. And if the client agrees to want to continue on to something else, then you say, okay, this is the next part of our story together, but the client trusts you, right? So you also are aware of the prior things, right? So for example, I had a client who was dealing with some, like number one thing was job. So we worked with that for 10 weeks. And then it turns out it was really about something else that was actually kind of dark. So we worked for that for 10 weeks. And then it was also these other things. So we worked with that for 10 weeks. And that's how I end up seeing clients for a longer time. But it's, in the beginning of my journey of being a therapist, I like to call myself a brain detective. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. Like, I think I just read too many comic books and I'm like, I'll peel your mind like an orange. It's a Hulk reference, right? But, and it's a brain detective, you find all these facts and it's like, oh, this and this. But now, in reality, I'm just training wheels. And that's all therapists are because, how fucking cruel would it be for me to be like, you're a paycheck and a number. Like, that's the one like therapy, that's not okay. Right. So you need to constantly check in with your therapist and figure out where to go. Sometimes I have clients that I will talk to once a month. Like that's it, once a month, just to check in because something else might come back up if they have PTSD or something more severe. Right.
Sitting with my friend and I've known him for many years and I see this, it's easy for me to say, wow, dude, you've been going through this for so long. When is it over? And I'm afraid that, and I don't know the relationship that he has with this therapist, but I'm hoping that it's, in his interest and not in the therapist's financial interest. But, it's easy for me to sit here and question without, obviously being there. And I've gone to counselors before, marriage counselors and stuff like that, and very useful and, that kind of stuff. So I just, when you're having coffee with the guy and he's talking about, it's easy for me to go, whew, and and I don't want to interfere, but so.
Are you re-traumatizing yourself? Are you being taken advantage of? Right. Is there a codependence? Because that's also the therapist's job to say, hey, let's not. And you have to wean clients off sometimes because they don't, we're all like that. Like also side note, never see a therapist that doesn't go to therapy. Like that's a given, Always, so always ask your therapist. When you find a therapist, ask them if they see a therapist.
That's great advice because I could see somebody saying, no, I'm a therapist. I don't need a therapist.
What kind of narcissist is that? That means you aren't human. That means you have no right, to advise anyone what to do. Right. Because as a therapist, you have to acknowledge how kind of like what they absorb. So sometimes I see 5 clients a day and I have a stellar record collection and I have to decompress. Like I take 2, and this is the beauty of being in private practice, right? Like I have particular albums that I put on my record player for different clients to decompress, or if I know that there's one that's particularly triggering to me, like this is going to be at the end of the day or the beginning of the day. And I have to block the rest of the day out because I don't want to counter transference and put that on someone else. So it's just being it's morality.
Right.
But I see often the burnout and a lot of, people who work for larger corporations, like they get so bombarded, like they're seeing 8 or 9 clients a day. They never have time to catch up on paperwork. And sometimes the clients aren't allowed to see their clients or their therapist for more than twice a month. Are you kidding me? That's horrible. What if they're in crisis? And then they also sometimes get waitlisted, and none of that's okay.
Wow.
Like we're all just trying to survive, man. Every single one of us.
Yeah. And like, I could see somebody like taking on their, like, you know, I'm the therapist and I'm seeing somebody, and all of a sudden, wow, I'm like really absorbing their whatever, you know, their psycho issues or whatever.
Yeah, you got it. Well, then art therapy, right? You got to dance it out. Draw a mandala, go make some crazy art. I don't know. Go on a hike. I was just sharing with you, like, I'm going to disappear for a week. I'm going camping, not because none of my clients were particularly difficult. And every therapist also has the right to refer someone out. Like I don't feel like I'm competent enough to help you. But I know someone else who is. That's also an ethical moral obligation. But just because of COVID, the protests, it was raining ash yesterday, like everything, right? I'm going off the grid. I'm going camping for a week. It has nothing to do with my clients. There's also the therapist self as well, you know? So it's a lot of, I mean, it's a lot of practice, but it's the most rewarding, fulfilling work that you can ever do. At least for me. Right. But you have to be very, very careful with your clients.
Yeah. Well, thanks for kind of differentiating. I can't even say the word. Those two different types of therapy. That's thank you for doing that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So basically, everybody could use some therapy.
Yes. Yes. Everyone now, all the time.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and feel free to tell your I work with clients all over the world, right? So I was in a few different countries today, and one of them, who's not in America, was like, oh no, just seeing what's going on in America because his family's in America. I think I need to bump it up to once a week. That's okay, you know, and then we'll petter out later. Before, I've been working with him for 3 years, and sometimes I would go 5 months without hearing from him. But it's good to know that you have a person in a safe space and you have an objective lens, you know,
So your job as a therapist is really to help guide and give people the tools for them to figure out how to see themselves out of that situation, that problem, or however you want to look at it.
Absolutely. Okay. It's never the therapist's job to hold on to a client forever. Like you want them to be like, set the baby bird free, you know, like you're having a hard time. This is what I have. This is what I've learned. This is my assessment. Try it on your own. If you have a few hiccups on the road, don't punish yourself. If you feel like you need help again, come back, but do it in your own time.
During this time of COVID, I know that there's been a lot of talk about depression and people, you know, just feeling isolated. Do you feel like artists as a certain subset of the population is a little more adept in negotiating these waters, or is it pretty much a level playing field for everyone?
I think it's level.
Yeah.
What I'm really concerned about are the extroverts. The people who need the constant, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like whatsoever, I'm not knocking that. But the people who need the, like, say their medicine is going to a show every week, you know, or a concert, or going to galleries every week and having social time, you know, when that all of a sudden gets stripped away, in addition to fear of like spreading COVID or being shamed for being in public, that's who I'm primarily worried about. I'm not worried about artists as a subsect. I think that artists actually, they're probably going to, you know, again, everyone's a unique individual, but they're probably going to have an easier time because they're going to have the tools to process it better, right? Even the extroverted artists, like we have podcasts now, right? We have YouTubes. I have one client that since COVID, he learned some DJ audio thing, and now he's a Twitter. And I talked to him today, and he's like, "I got 700 happy birthdays today from Twitter," and I'm like, "Great, you need that, you know." So it's and he's an artist, but I do believe that artists can have an easier time because we're good at being alone with our thoughts and thinking more abstractly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the right word, but I think that's good. Now, what you do with that, and once you finish your piece, you know, it's a whole can of worms. You got to do it all over again. And what after that? I mean, there are many times that I've made art and I've said, this is the greatest piece I've ever made, and it's still not good enough. And what do I do? And then I've gone into a deep depression because I'm a human and an artist. But, you know, you take your time, you change your hobby, you find the art of buttering bread, you know, whatever. You go on a walk and you find it again, or you take a break from it completely. But I think that artists are or can be better than that, but that's a blanket statement. So it's not
it's a very general thing.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked that question, and you pretty much answered it, I was thinking along the same lines, because art is a very individual thing, and you tend to, when you're an artist, you spend a lot of time alone, even if you're an extroverted artist, you know, usually unless you're collaborating. And people are still collaborating. They're doing these wonderful murals around town or working on. Yeah. But I feel like artists are always pretty resourceful, and they're more adept at dealing with the unknown because of the life that they've chosen. But again, it's a very general statement. So anyway, I just wanted to hear what your take was on that.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it both ways. I mean, I'm trying to bring it down, but I've known since this has started, I've known 2 that have committed suicide.
Oh my God.
Which you would never know. No idea. You would never know, right? No asking for help. I know plenty, including myself, that's like, oh, finally I have time. Like, I don't have the guilt of feeling like I need to go out to a friend's show, or like I have time for myself to do these things, or I forget which train of philosophical thought it is, but like I can go back into the woods. So now it's my time to really slow down and learn Pro Tools, right? Or open shot editing, or try weaving, you know? So it's kind of a thing. But the main thing that I'm very, very much an advocate of is just writing letters to everyone. And this has nothing to do with artists, but so as a weekly practice, I write 1 postcard to 1 person every single week. Just, hey, how's it going? I think you're great because of this reason. And something like that, because people aren't used to asking for help. Like, that's not in our paradigm. Like, we don't do that. Like, we're kind of just starting to do that, like in a norm. And I think that that's really, really helping. So I think, the artists are really good at it, but artists are wild cards. You never know.
Well, a lot of times they're dealing with their own psychosis too, you know, and that their art is their expression out of it. So whether it's music or, you know, painting or sculpture, you know, any kind of, Kurt Cobain would be a perfect example of somebody who used his art, making music, to work through his psychotic whatever episodes, and, you know, it got the best of him anyway, you know, but.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think the main key is just, you never know. And to quote the great Bill and Ted, the movie was great. Just saw it this past week at the Alamo. Be excellent to each other. And that's it. If you're an artist or, you know, whatever, Christian, atheist, Republican, Democrat, who gives a shit, write the postcards. Don't think that all artists are survivors, because we are the chameleons of We can hide out in the aristocratic world, and we can hide out down in the gutters, right? And so we're the sneakiest of them all. So I guess since this is a podcast, what my request to your viewers would be is just to write a postcard to someone. Like, and it could be, it could just be a joke, like write a fart joke, like you're thinking of someone, like whatever it is, like it's important to do. It's important to do because it's hard for everyone.
Yeah.
I love that.
I do too. I like the idea of getting a postcard from somebody that you weren't expecting it,
Right?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Not an email, not a text or a meme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Postcards are personal that you took a moment to actually write,
Mm-hmm. And support the post office. That's always nice.
Most definitely.
Double whammy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these are really crazy times. I mean, like you said, raining ash. Well, what else have we got? What other plague have we got coming? I had just seen an interesting meme about the Egyptians, and it's just another plague, it's just like, oh my God.
It's just another one of those.
Yeah.
Like,
and
like
I was
the murder hornets.
Yeah. Murder hornets.
Is it like it's just
asteroids.
Darwinism.
United States or whatever.
And I made the joke today about that we should maybe sacrifice somebody to the gods to get rid of all these plagues. I have a few people in mind I would be willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, there you go. There you
go. Not myself,
Always
though.
do you.
Yeah, don't sacrifice Wes.
We can't say that, right? But we can. What is it? We can dream it.
That's right.
Or we can say, "I had a dream that." I think that's how it goes.
Anyway,
what makes it legal.
Yeah, there you go. But it is weird. It's all this. I mean, everything is weird. And, in the midst of the COVID thing, I was really feeling really sorry for, the elderly that are stuck in nursing homes and finding themselves looking through a window to see their loved ones and not having that personal contact. And you can't shake hands, you can't hug. And that's been very trying for me because I'm a huggy kind of guy. And, it's just weird.
I don't like the elbow bump.
Yeah,
I hate it. Like I go to just like frown behind my mask and be like, flip the bird. I don't know.
Right.
Well, here's a nice thing, and maybe this is something your listeners can get hip to. I have a friend out of Kansas City who's a social worker, and I believe she works in hospice, and she's a mother of 3. She's just a great superwoman. And she's a fun performance artist, odd duck. So she went to this random retirement home, like she did a tour of them, and she put on some strange wig and honestly, I don't really understand her art, but I like it. And she played the accordion for them, and because they have the windows, right? Just something like that, because you can't send them a letter, you can't send them a postcard, right? Just something. Clowns Without Borders. I mean, just something to, right? Something to break up the day, Oh
my God.
It's important, but there's alternative, and that is why the artists are important. It's the most important subsect or demographic of people right now during COVID, because creative thinking, creative minds, I would have never thought to have shown up in a wig and a clown suit and play the accordion for outside a random retirement home. But someone else did, and that's beautiful.
It is.
And that's the spice of, that's what life's all about, right?
Yeah.
So do whatever you do and make it weird and have fun and make someone smile about it.
That's awesome.
That's how we survive this.
Do you feel like when we get on the other side of this whole thing, that there's going to be some amazing art that has come out of this?
I hope so. I think there will be. I think there will be, because we're finally left alone with our thoughts, like that silence I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be very amazing art. I think there's going to be a lot of kitsch art, and that's okay, because it's staying busy. But I think that there's going to be some really heavy stuff, like beyond what it's like to, wear a mask or the protest. I think there's going to be a completely new wave of philosophy and thinking. And I hear the quote, life's never going to be the same after this, but I'm kind of into that. Like, I don't see the negativity in that. Like, I do, right? But I mean, it's an internalized war. There's going to be some really interesting stuff out of it. It just depends on how you spin it, I think.
Right.
And it's okay if it's turmoil, because what it is honesty. And that's, I mean, I can see a lot of, I mean, and again, this is just me. And like, I think that we as a society, again, blanket statement as a whole, have been so avoidant for so long. I mean, just date it back to history. I mean, like, it's just, I think that I think we're all going to stop bullshitting, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I think, yeah.
That would be wonderful. Be more real.
Yeah.
And more honest, like you said.
Yeah.
Like, I'm into that.
100.
Hello, this is Todd Pearson. Wes and I hope you're enjoying this week's episode with Kat Nechleba. 2020 has been a difficult year for everyone. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health issues, please seek out a mental health professional. Finding the right therapist is one of the key facets to receiving quality therapy. Kat Nechleba is a registered psychotherapist offering online counseling and counsels people all over the world. She offers a free initial 15-minute consultation and is happy to refer you to someone else if for whatever reason it's not the right fit. Check out Kat's website at katnechleba.com. That's KATNECHLEBA.com. Thanks for listening, and now back to Tenet. Let's talk a little bit about your art.
Cool.
You do sculpture. We've talked about that already, but it's not your standard sculpture. You incorporate a lot of different elements into your sculpture. It's not what people would necessarily think. And then you look at Kat's website and you'll see a range of things that'll make you stop and think. Talk to me, the one that on your website, and you have some different series that you've done in the past 4 years. The world is strange and I blame it on you.
So that was
I feel like that's really pertinent to where we're at right now. Right
on. That was my, God, I think maybe a dark period, and an honest period, and an anger at the fact that would have been my PhD dissertation if I could afford it. Education's too high. Actually, I pulled it out out here. So what I did was I realized throughout my time making art, right? And we'll just start from like art school post, right? I was always making archetypes. Like, I'm obsessed with myths and legends because I feel like that's history and I feel like we don't pay attention to it. And I get how myths and legends about, and fairy tales and lore I get how those are metaphors of stories of how to live, but I think that they're very important to pay attention to. And they were absolutely 100% connected to Jungian psychology, right? So the show I did it was 2018. In 2018, I did 5 archetypes, and they were really, and I'm telling you, this was hard for me to go to. Like, essentially, like, I ripped my entire psyche apart and dissected myself, and I couldn't talk to humans. I couldn't go out because I was going so far into each archetype of mine, like the shadow, the self, the warrior, all these things, because I just wanted to embrace them and truly understand those parts of myself. And I created sculptures out of them. And, so I did that, but then I also had to play on it because I kind of, it's kind of like you really like art. So you go to art school and then you all of a sudden you realize how bad a lot of art is, kind of thing. Like, you do that too when you become a psychologist, right? Like, you see the humility and the contradictories and all of it. So of this show, I thought very deeply about the some of the archetypes. And I thought about the catch-22 with it. So I have the book in front of me. I'm going to the self, right? Because that's the first one you learn about. And so the self is pretty much your whole self, the gestalt of you, like every aspect about you, like your life's journey, right? The hero's journey, that kind of thing. And I created that. And when I learned about what Carl Jung talked about it, about how it's actually this beautiful embodiment of all the parts of you. Like, it's okay if you're an asshole. It's okay if you're a martyr. It's okay if you're a caregiver. It's okay if you're a sage. Like, you have everything in common with everyone else. And that's essentially what creates us. And that's what makes us human. But then you go into the DSM, which is what mental health diagnostic statistic manual, something like that, which was created after World War I because people are coming back with PTSD. And that's a whole nother podcast right there. But they're saying that the self, which is the inevitable us, is clinically ill. So there's a lot of catch-22s with that. So I created this art exhibition out of it, and a book, which is just sort of a mockery and demonstrates the chaos on how nothing really matches up, I guess is a way to put it. So what's your question, I guess,
well,
you kind of gave
ADD
us
is one of my diagnoses, and I will talk in circles and not make any sense at the end of the day.
No,
I do have a question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But I do think you kind of introduced our listeners to what this whole series was about. So that's good. And you need to check out Kat's website and the book I thought was really interesting. I read through it and I was like, huh.
Thanks.
And I learned something and yeah, I thought it was intriguing. So I just wanted to have you to tell in your words, like, what was the premise and where you went with that and how you explored.
Yeah. Well, it's, I really like the idea of never being comfortable. Like, I kind of hate that idea, but I feel like it's important for me to do. I feel like it's important for everyone to do. So I wanted to create an art and psychology book because that's essentially what I do. So I made, in a nutshell, it's a psychology book for dummies, like goes from Plato to mental health standards, to my rant of how this world is ridiculous and nothing makes sense whatsoever, and my art. And my intention for this book was to let people know that even though things don't feel okay and they aren't okay, that they are also beautiful. So I think that's it. I probably should have written up like something.
And that's why I loved it.
Clever about it. That it's in the book. I could read it, but it's like
no. And you can see the book on the website, which is great. Or you can order it for $16. You're still selling them, correct?
Absolutely. So I sell them. They are for free to view on my website because I feel like mental health should be free. You shouldn't have to pay for it. But if you would like a copy of it, then I will mail one to you for the price of printing it out. It's a nice Japanese hand-stitched thing and postage. I make no profit off of it. But This World is Strange and I Blame It on You is essentially based on, like, is it okay to say that I hate Donald Trump on this podcast?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
By all means.
And that I also have everything in common with him outside of his opinions, right? But we all have those same parts of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like, he has the sage. I mean, he's just a little ridiculous because
it's more amplified in him.
Yeah, he's such a narcissist. The
bad stuff, right?
Right. But it kind of takes you through. So we have the shadow, which is the unknown. People think that, the shadow is this dark place. That's not true. It's just the unknown. It's the unconsciousness, right? We have the anima, the animus, which, combats, like the DSM talks about. I mean, like, even in the 70s, it was a mental illness to be homosexual. And the one that was produced 5 years ago, being into BDSM or being a furry, was a mental illness. I mean, that's true. We're all just humans. This book was just to, like, just to say fuck you to mental health and it's all okay, I think, and an excuse to show off my art. That's it. So I see a lot of people these days, and, and I see it on Facebook, like, oh, take this class on how to find your spirit animal, or how to be, how to be whole, or, and it's really sad because it's way more complex than this. But what I do in this book is I completely break it down to the bare bones of, this is what it is. You don't have to buy a $50 tarot card book, like, this is actual hard science, because I do believe in philosophy and theology and spiritual, all those things, but this is science and theology combined with art. Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
I sat there and I read it and I'm like, this is the perfect book for me, the dummy, with ADD. And
right on, brother.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Cool.
I might order a bunch for Christmas for people.
Hey, I will be stitching more up then. But yeah, it's a bad thing. I go on tour every now and then, and I always think like, oh, this is going to be my swag. I'm going to be able to sell it, and that's how I'm going to pay for gas money. But I just like meet people and I just give it away, because I'm like, this is so important. Because I feel like right now we're in a time where everyone's so desperate just to have a label put on them, or like an identity, like what, I mean, I'm guessing like, I don't know, like maybe 15 years ago, like I'm Buddhist, or I'm Hindi, or I'm this, or I'm poor, or I'm rich. Or it's like, you just is. Mm-hmm. And that's not a colloquialism. Like, you just is. Like, that's it. And that's okay. And there's, it's just a little coffee table book that just kind of guides you through everything. And I'm currently looking for PhDs that will not give me any more student loans, and will pay me to do it so I can actually do a full-on thesis and dedicate 4 years to it. But this is the beginning of it. It's a free press scene. And you can pick them up on my website and also at Mutiny Cafe, because that's a great place to also be, to support a local bookshop, coffee shop, and other artists.
So how did you identify the 5 archetypes? Are there just 5 archetypes, or are those your 5 archetypes?
No, these are universal.
The universal.
These are universal. Yeah. So they start with, one of the things about like writing a book and studying, it's like you learn all the terms, but then you forget all the terms because you just apply them all the time. So it's kind of tricky. But the first ones are, the first arcana are the self, the shadow, the anima, the animus, and the persona. Then you go into subtypes, right? And those are the self types, the ego types, the soul types, And then since 2003, once people started spending thousands of dollars on crystals, they're like, there's other types too, But these are the ones that were established by Carl Jung, student of Freud. He's also the one who came up with dream analysis. Mm-hmm. So it is tricky and it's frustrating for me because, again, I love science, I love the hard facts, and I also respect, what the world has to offer and the great unknown. But this is the guts, right? Without any marketing to it whatsoever. But yeah, it's really good to get into. I've heard it's a fun drinking game for my neighbor. I don't know. They had a tequila night the other night because I was like, oh, I get that they're older, and so I go out and I get groceries for them because I worry about them, getting infected. I'm like, why don't you read this? And they're very Catholic and very straight, They're like, we got tequila, and then we decided that, no, I'm the sage, and, she's the innocent, and this is why. So it's, I don't know, it's a fun drinking game if you want to call it that. But that's it's cool. Science, and it's important to know.
It's educational, and it can be fun.
Yes.
And if you need to kill a few hours with a bottle of tequila,
hey,
you're set.
Yeah, you learn something out of it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So with this book that you wrote, you also, with all these archetypes, you also created sculptures.
Yes.
That spoke to you.
Yes. And
embodied these different archetypes.
Yeah. I mean, I did something really weird to get to this. And I'm prefacing it with, I realize how cheap hippie this sounds. I actually studied underneath shaman in the Peruvian Andes for a few years. So I'm very fortunate to do that. That's not a very common thing. And there's no Groupon for it. I hear about a lot of people who's like, I'm going to go get smudged by a shaman. And I'm like, oh God, it's like my number one grinds my gears, but I was very fortunate to be able to have these insane spiritual experiences with this one family, which is only one family out of the Andes, and really tap into these archetypes. And it was a very psychosomatic experience that's hard to explain. I can, but I'll probably sound clinically insane if I do. I don't know. I just, let's see.
That was the catalyst for this whole series?
Yes. Yeah. That was it. It was after a very, very intense time in the Andes. And, it was a very sacred journey, and I did it, and I want to talk about it, but I have this huge fear that if I talk about it, that it's going to become woo woo, and it wasn't, because it was real, but it was the most spiritual. It was the most I've ever been or I ever can be, and I don't think it's human the way that I experienced some of these rituals with some of the shaman, and I created art out of it. And there's a lot of funny little like ha-has to it, right? Like, so if you go to, you can see all this art again on my website. If you go to the self, like all these unconscious cues, right? So the self is this one. I'm showing it in the thing. But so it was sort of and unknowingly, right? So I always work on multiple projects, like at the same time. But this one was absolutely my journey into being a therapist. And it was kinetic, it lit up, it did all these things. It includes the shadow, it includes all these weavings, it includes the medicine wheel, all this stuff. But I have this deer, right, that which is like sort of the end of the story, where I am riding. I kind of have this so I've got the halo, and I was also working with the shamans during this, and or I just came back, and I've got this deer that I made out of this wood from this coconut tree that I wasn't supposed to bring back to the States, but they said I could, and I was just like, but to hide it in my luggage or whatever, and it was safe or whatever. But I have him vomiting out tea bags, and that's like the purge, right? But what I didn't realize till it was all done, till someone was asking me about it, these are all the bags of tea that I drank while I was being a therapist and working with someone else. So there are all these weird little things, personal
elements that you've incorporated into.
Yeah, that you really have no idea about until it's all done. So kind of the backstories behind them.
So how did you find the shaman in Peru?
Yeah, through my school, Southwestern College. Oh, okay. It's like this little adobe compound in the middle of Santa Fe.
How did you decide to go there for your master's?
Yeah, well, after the boys and girls, I wanted the master's because I was like, oh, I can get a master's at Yale. That's what I'm supposed to do. And then, after the shanking and years there and lots of experiences, realizing that's my calling, I don't know what this direction is, but I'm going to go there. I've always been in love with Kachinas, Native American art. But I legit just Googled art therapy, accredited university, art studio. So a lot of art therapy places don't have art studios, which is insane to me.
Yeah, doesn't make sense.
Right? And I was the only person in my class who was an active artist. Other people were anthropologists or went for other things. So again, I was the weird kid. But then it was also really horrible at the time, but very nice for me to reflect on now. I had to unlearn everything I learned from art school. I had to work with fucking glitter and markers and crowns and oil pastels. And I couldn't do a portrait. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't draw a shoe for 15 hours straight, right? Like I had to unlearn. So it was like training the mind and then untraining the mind, and all of that, because it wasn't about the technical skills that you learn of being the artist and how you conceptualize that. Instead, it was about how you conceptualize the mind and how you can just have an emotion in a second, just like that. And you have to express that. But that school is very, very interesting. They only accept 15 people a year from around the world. And I was very lucky to get in. I don't know how I got in. My colleague or fellow classmate, they're in Thailand now. They're all over the world, Argentina. It's great. And we all stay connected, and we all kind of get together and like do art therapy things every now and then. But because this place is such a weird little hole in the wall, they're very connected with what's going on in the world. And they're very selective with the teachers there. Like I couldn't teach there. Like I don't know, you have to be a shaman to teach. I don't know. It's weird. Like lots of lectures, like lectures, everyone's very strange. So what is it called? Like the Sundance, about the Sundance is a thing. So the leader of the Sundance would come down and do stuff, we would go through lots of sweat lodges, ceremonies, even though I'm a Caucasian woman, I should not be able to be invited to, but I had to go through all these ceremonies, and then I was able to do it. And it wasn't for marketing. I understand that like educational systems are big business, right? But it wasn't that. Like we didn't have a maintenance guy at the school. Like it was, you clean up after yourself. It was very different. It's very different.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a really unique, intriguing experience.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Yeah,
absolutely. Same as art school. I feel like those are the two places where I truly became myself. And I'm curious what the next one is, and a little sorrowful, like not knowing what the next thing is. And I'm like, this is it, like what's the next? I want to go into, I want to go back into the Andes, but maybe that was it, So, and maybe my position now is just to help other people, like help translate to other people and continue to make art. And maybe it'll make a little change in someone.
Do you feel like your life has been guided, like a spiritual guide, to have these experiences?
Yeah, but I'm not. But I'm also a person of science, so I'm kind of pessimistic about it, right? So, yeah, no, I do feel like a special person. Like I had these very, very unique experiences in life that a lot of people don't have to have, and I'm very, very grateful for them. And I try to respect them the best I can. But yeah, maybe it was Pachamama, maybe it was written in the stars, maybe it was past life. I don't know. Maybe it was luck, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's something very special and very, very dear to me, and what I cherish the most out of this lifetime.
Yeah, I always find it interesting how people's lives intersect in different sectors or whatever, and how that stream or that path is interwoven and affects the next phase. And it, you could just say it's all just like fate to the wind, and doors open and whatever and close, and then you have to find another path. But in your case, it seems like it's very intentional. Like not necessarily intentional on your side, but like, and maybe I'm making too big a deal out of this, but it seems very intentional.
I hear you. Yeah. And it's very weird because I reflect on, I think about it a lot because I can't not, but yeah, I can't help but feel that way. And of course I want to resist feeling that way, but it's wild. So I can't help but believe in what I am naturally opposed to believing in, right? Like this little NASA brat from Arkansas that grew up with, like I was supposed to, married at 18, have some babies, do all of that, and it's not, I mean, I fought hard for everything and I definitely earned everything. Nothing was given to me, but, yeah, it's very surreal. And I think for me, it's hard for me to talk about because I don't talk about it a lot, or it's hard for me to share with you because I don't know how to even process it myself.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to verbalize that.
Yeah.
Just like the experience with the shaman, right? Like,
right. I can't.
And you can't, and nor should you. I don't believe you should. I think that's something that's very personal. And I've had some experiences and spiritual experiences where I think if you start to verbalize it, it kind of detracts from it in some way, shape, or form. So it's better just to kind of just accept it for what it is, process it internally. You kind of shared on a very topical level, which is perfectly fine. But I think trying to verbalize that, I don't know, it just gets weird.
Thanks. Yeah. I don't want to ever, I have this fear of cheapening it. And I think that's how I communicate it, why I communicate it through art. And if you look at the art and you get it, then you get it. If you don't get it, that's okay too. And if you just think it's some art, that's totally fine also. But it's another thing where I'm like, language is a clunky communication. And how can you talk about such peak inhumane experiences that are so wild, which again shouldn't have happened to me, I guess, right? I don't know.
I think it's being open. You seem like a very open person. Like you're willing to at least explore and go before you decide, that's not the door I'm walking through, like I don't need to go that place, but I'm always open to the experience and what it has to offer. And I think when you're able to do that, things happen.
I agree. Yeah. I think that's what made it all follow through. So always greedy, always waiting for the next thing again. But maybe that's not my path. Maybe I've had enough and it's my purpose to help be training wheels for other people.
I'd be surprised. I bet you something else comes along.
Man, I hope so.
That like 2 years from now, when we're talking to you about it, that you'd be like, oh, this next phase, the next phase shortly after we talk was this and the impact it has had on my life. I totally, because I think, like Todd said, I think you're open to that kind of stuff. And some people are, and some people aren't. And, I'm always curious. So I love to hear the stories. I've bugged Todd about a bunch of stuff that, experiences he's had. And I like to hear the stories because it brings meaning. I mean, not brings meaning to me, but it gives me a different perspective on my life. And anyway.
Right on.
So with this whole series, The World is Strange, and I Blame It on You, I love it. And everybody needs to check it out that's listening to this. I feel like it's something, I wish I could have seen it in person. What do you do with all this once it's been installed and displayed? Like, where does it live? Has it all been?
I have 2 pieces for sale if you're interested.
Okay.
Currently I have one piece. One of them, actually, The Innocent. That was in the, what's it called? The Arvada
Center?
the Arvada Center, but the Colorado
Art of the State.
Yes. It was on the artist. I had it there.
Just that one piece?
Yep. Just that one piece. It was at the Art of the State. So it made it in one of the pamphlet things. So I still have that piece. That is currently right next to my sewing machine in the other room. And the Self is another one that I have, which I really want to put that into. Let me know if y'all have any ideas I would like to put that in a window display somewhere. And I feel like with all these, unfortunately, failing businesses due to COVID, right? I'd like to take up a space and put it there. But that's currently in my garage, which it's becoming wintertime. And in the wintertime, I make music. So then that's another level of the tuning in and tuning out kind of thing, is making music around the art that was kind of gifted to me to make. So
the other pieces, did you sell those other pieces that were part of that series?
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
Yeah.
And since we're talking a little bit about business here,
sure.
You'd sell it. What did these pieces? Where did they start, and where did they go up to?
Ooh,
or was it a negotiation?
It's a weird journey. It's one of the things I really like about today, but I used to have art agents, and I know it's really taboo. Like, you can't sell art if it's under this amount, or whatever. And like, you're going to cheapen yourself. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's art, man. Like give it out. So I've sold pieces for as little as 500, and I've sold pieces for over 5,000. I've also met people during certain times, and I've given them to them. And you aren't allowed to do that, but I can do that because I don't have an agent. And as great as it would be to have an agent, it's nice to be able to do that. It feels good.
Do you have collectors?
Yes, I do. I have, let's see, where are they? I have collectors around the country because I moved around so much and I travel a lot. I have a collector in Prague, and I have a collector in Paris and Toronto and various states here. And I have permanent exhibitions at a few universities, which is kind of a wild card. And where else is one? A permanent collection, like I don't know. It's on my resume. They're around. They exist. It's on my website. But Whoopi Goldberg owns one of my pieces. That's fun.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Right?
Right on.
So I don't know. Yeah.
That's cool.
Maybe I'll get in trouble for saying that, but I don't think she's pretty chill. So,
yeah. And she's a huge art collector.
Yeah, man. She is a cool lady. She's very short.
Is she really?
Very short. You think of big personality? Now I'm in trouble. She like comes up to my shoulders and heels. And I'm just like, oh man, all hail Whoopi. But that was, I don't know. When was that? That was like 2008, I believe. But
I was looking at oh, go ahead.
Some of my collectors, like, they'll be like, I want 7 of these things. So on my website, that kinetic piece, which was a sound installation, the marionettes that I created out of the insides of pianos, like that was really inspired by living in the South, because you're around Memphis, you're in the Delta, like there's pianos, accordions, music just pushed down on the side of the road. One of my biggest challenges of living in Denver is that people aren't dirty enough here. Like they don't just push everything into the street. I'm like, my art supplies, what do I do? So my work's getting a lot more, like I'm doing a lot more casting. It's becoming more clean, but I still go down to New Orleans all the time just to like go through the rubbish, because I think, everything has a stain or history on it, or I just like it, or maybe I'm just nostalgic. I don't know, but.
So let's talk a little bit more about that. So all these pieces, they're found. It's kind of found art, in that you're recycling things that you find and incorporating them into your art.
Yes. Yeah. I can go like that cliche talk of like humans are destroying the world. Man, I love Stanley Kubrick and plastic art and all that stuff, but I don't do it, and I almost, I feel kind of uncomfortable like creating molds, which is why I make them out of powder, which I know you can turn into, out of plaster, which I know I can like turn into dust and like put in a garden someday. But my primary medium is found on the side of the road, dumpster diving, scraps, unwanted things. And in the beginning, that was because I could not afford anything. But I mean, man, that's just what I do. Like I can't Like, I'm so uncomfortable with it. Like, I just did a commission for 9 Dot Arts, and it was like, wow, I can afford like it doesn't come out of me. Like, this is the budget. Like, and I need to use fine materials because it has to be forever lasting. Because I personally like to make art that will dilapidate as we do. Right. But it's like, I got to make something perfect. And I'm so uncomfortable with it because it has to be permanent, you know? Like, at least when I make something out of bronze or I like pour iron or something, you can always remelt it and turn it into a furnace, you know, make it functional. But no, I'm always going to dumpster dive. It's just Denver, you're so clean and functional. Dirty South. I have to take, like, I will legit, I will go down there. I last year I flew down there with, like, you know, a suitcase packed in a suitcase. I just had a backpack with clothes on it, and I rented a chainsaw at a tool rental place and just chopped apart furniture that was on the side of the road just for the legs and the beautiful woodwork, you know. Wow. Came back with all kinds of fun stuff. But those are where the marionettes made out of piano pieces came from. And those were actually, so those were piano pieces, which are fun. You can see on my website, it's called Ebb and Flow, right? Based off of Chaucer's, you know, Tale of the Wind and seeing the tide and all of that. But then the motors were CAD systems. So those were actually like, so I live on a corner, and I rent a duplex, and I live on a corner, and all these horrible politician signs would just pop up in my yard. And they did not, and I'm friends with some people who were running for stuff. And I said, yes, absolutely. Put, you know, I like put something in my yard. But then, like, you know, signs for like those big boxy apartment condos, like, we want these in here. Like, they would put those in my yard, and I got so pissed off that I took all of them. And of course I recycled like the plastic part, but I bent them and I turned them into CAD systems. And I went to the thrift shop and found old rotisserie motors, like, you know, those rotisserie chickens. Uh-huh. So cooker things. So it goes like, and I welded it to this stupid political voting sign that I hated. And then I connected it to this wooden spool, like, left over after I used the thread. So it moved. And that's how the marionettes danced.
That's so cool.
So that's my supplies. So it's always tricky. It's like, what's your medium? So thank you for not asking it as, what's your medium? Because it's like, garbage. Like, I used to be really into it. Like back in my like early 20s, like, I like to give filth a new meaning, you know, but like now it's just like, dude, I don't know, man.
I like found objects or abandoned objects, anything like that. That's cool. No, I love that story. That's neat.
I welded a boat out of who was running? I forget who was running against Obama. I forget. I don't know, whatever. When I was in Kansas City, I welded a boat out of those politician signs, you know, just like those little bars.
Was and of course, Mitt Romney?
Mittens. Yeah. And just found some styrofoam, like from packaging, whatever, on the side of the road, strapped it to the base, welded an entire boat out of those things. So those are great supplies. Everyone listening, if you hate your local politician, if he's a bad or she's a bad person, or they are a bad person, take their sign, weld it. It's good art supplies. They're going to throw it away anyways.
Yeah.
That's a way of protesting.
Talk about your series about totems, fetishes, and signets.
Yeah. So, that really came a lot out of living in New Mexico. Again, like little, and it also ties in with sand play therapy. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a little therapy form, kind of like, do you remember being a little kid and playing with action figures and like maybe this, like the Ninja Turtle did this, and like each little figure would have its own persona, right? So that's basis of sand play therapy, and it works really well with kids in foster care. Of like when you can't say, who's good or who's bad or what's going on at home, like they can kind of move them around. So I kind of made my own fetishes and totems and signets, because that's what they're referred to. But I made a lot of them were reliquaries because of like things that just really broke my heart that I would see in the news. Like in Kansas City, I remember there was like a baby found in a dumpster behind my house, just little things like that, you know?
Yeah.
So some dark stuff, but I wanted to make little loved creatures for them. And so that's a series of a lot of lost children and sad stories.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like to really appreciate your art, you need to see it in person, and you need to spend some time with it, because it's intense, you know?
Yeah. It is. And it's hard to photograph. A lot of it.
I could see
really
that.
difficult.
Yeah.
Last but not least, let's talk about the most recent series of things that and I don't know if you've been doing this for a while, but it's like performance art. It's music.
Yes.
And I assume that you're making these costumes.
Yep.
Which are really cool.
Thanks.
I mean, how do you pronounce it? Ruche Mére?
Ruche Mére. So it's French, and it translates to hive mother or mother hive. So I also keep bees, and I have my own philosophies about all that stuff. But it's me, and it's actually a high school friend from Jonesboro, Arkansas. He lives up in Minneapolis and part-time in Oaxaca. And then I'm here. And so we travel around a lot. But so after creating This World is Strange and I Blame It on You, I mean, that just like, that was the most spiritual, out there, unspeakable experience I ever had. And it in all honesty, it almost destroyed me. I don't think a human should survive going through what I psychologically put myself through to get to it. Right. So I needed a break. I wanted to make something fun. I love music. I love costumes. I got a bunch of, like, after that show, I had a lot of mixed emotions, right? Because it was too much. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like, you can't explain this experience. And also, how dare I be like, here's my show. I wrote a book, do you get it? Like that, it's not. So that whole thing was really for me. But after that, I just needed to play, So I took a lot of reed and I dyed it in indigo root and all turmeric and all these things. And I just started weaving. So that's a good thing to do if you have anxiety, just weaving all this stuff. Like, it's fun. You can weave shapes. So it started with weaving a corset, because I wove one from a friend who's a local drag queen in town. I'm like, wear all this crazy shit that in lip sync, So I don't know. But so I started just making these suits, these weird costumes out of stuff I would find on the side of the road, things that I can make musical instruments with, goat toes, cans, glass, things, water drums, pots and pans. I just made them, and I started to play and record music. And then I did a couple tours, and we had a show booked for Rhinoceropolis here the week after everything got shut down, because that was going to kick off this other tour that was also going to go down to Oaxaca, Mexico. And we're like, the border's closed, everything's closed, let's just not. But I think that's going to be an ongoing project for me while I'm in quarantine, just like everyone else, because I feel like this is going to go on for a while. But during this time, I'm teaching myself stop animation, video software techniques. While I was camping and had to get off the grid and unplug for a while, I just did a bunch of goofy videos where I'm like swimming in Granby Lake, like in this 70-pound suit of metal with like two hats. I almost drowned. But I was like, everyone's like, oh no, we got to save you. I'm like, keep filming, but so that's what I'm doing now. But it's fun. So I did some big shows with it, and I've been creating projections and music videos.
So it's incorporating all these different things, film and music, and then you're designing the costumes and making your own instruments with these found objects, and you're doing it. It's a collaboration between you and John Middleton.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I saw some place else where it wasn't just the two of you. There was like a bunch of different musicians that kind of came together. Is that part of the deal or no?
So it is kind of the deal. And that's because, so this project it's solely John's a dear friend. He's an audio engineer. So he's the stage guy, right? And he's got his own projects, and he has solo albums and all that stuff. You know, he's known me since I was 14 years old. So he's just like, whatever you want to do, Kat, like, that's fine. Like, whatever. So I'm like, John, you got to come down. I'm doing this stuff. And he's like, okay. Like I figured out how to play this gong with dry ice that sounds really ethereal. And I've been like playing, which this is a special effect one, which is fun. And like, I got this cool guitar from Morocco that's for blues music. Like, I'm always just doing weird stuff. And he was like, okay, Kat, whatever you're doing, I want to get out of town. I'll come hang out. And then he was here for a week. He stayed with me, and we recorded an album. We were like, holy shit, this is kind of good. Or it's that bad that it's good. Like, it's a fine line, you know, but I don't really care. Let's just do it, you know? So, you know, so that's, yeah, right now I'm just kind of having fun, and that's it. And I think that's where I need to be. And I think that's also where a lot of people need to be.
Yeah.
During right now. I mean, Experiment. But it's a blast, man. Like I used to be able to go on point shoes in ballet, and then I tried to do it. So one of the videos, I'm like dancing around in bread flour. Like, why not? So I'm kind of getting more into the Dada Discordian kind of thing. And we have goals, like we're going to create zines and free presses. And, you know, we just applied for a residency in Bulgaria, and like, you know, like they're on lockdown too. Like, now it's just wild cards. I mean, I really feel like this world is strange, and I blame it on you. Just kind of like did it for me. And I need to take a few years off of just strictly play and enjoy life. And then I'll get serious about something again later. I'm sure that's just my pattern, but so I love it.
Would you stop counseling?
No.
Love to do this? You'd still take your clients.
I bring it on the road.
Yeah. You could still do it via Zoom, right?
Zoom. Yeah. Cause everything's Zoom. And again, that's how I work with clients all over the world. We Zoom it. And I have I've worked with so many different demographics, but I have very cool clientele now. A lot of them are really intelligent, but they all get me. At least maybe they think they do. Like, they're all okay with me being me. Let me put it that way. So, you know, like I remember in my beginning practice, like I would wear a blazer, you know, have to put on lipstick, and, you know, you got to look the part, right? Then I realized that's ridiculous. We're all just humans, and got a good clientele. I had to do one session, and my entire face was painted green. And it was like in the backyard of like a punk show, but like the client was so grateful for it. But I wouldn't do that with most clients. They were just like, right on, okay. But it was very like, I ended up giving the session away for free because I'm like, I'm sorry, this is really unprofessional. Like, but it was a crisis call, like a serious emergency. So I always have that on hand, like, okay, but I'm going to look pretty nutty. And then when he just looked at my face, he was like, all of a sudden I'm better. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, but yeah, no, I bring my work on the road all the time because, you know, why not? And I take time for myself, you know, because that's important for everyone to do.
Being in private practice, I imagine you can kind of set your own schedule. So if you need a little time to yourself, like this week to go explore, you can do it, right?
Yeah. I explained that to a lot of my clients, and nobody was upset. It was so amazing. I mean, I see it on, and that's how much I love my clients. Like I see it on Facebook, like people, like I remember counselors at Kaiser a while ago were protesting, like they aren't paying us. I mean, it's bad in corporate world. There's a reason I've done that. Like, there's a reason why I work for myself. But and I see people being so upset, like personal friends of mine being like, how dare a counselor take time off? Like, we need them. I've never experienced that with any of my clients. They're always like, thank you. You be good. Cause I know if you take time off, I'm going to be good. And, I'm giving you money. Don't show up when you're in a shitty mood and you aren't going to be worth your money, So like, that's kind of nice to hear too. But yeah, they're all really good. I like them. Beauty of private practice. You get to pick and choose.
Yeah. If one of our listeners decides they want to go into psychotherapy as a career or art therapy as a career, what's the path and how long does it take to get a degree in psychotherapy and art therapy?
Everyone is more than welcome to email me personally through my website. It's info@katnechleba.com. I'll take them through the steps. Ironically, I've gotten 3 people this week that reached out to me on how to do this. I think it's because the COVID and like mental health, so that's kind of a cool thing. But it's different from state to state, but essentially you need a bachelor's and you need a master's of science or a master's of arts in clinical counseling or psychology or and art therapy. So that's the dual masters kind of thing where that comes in at. Or I think I was talking to a friend who I went to undergrad in sculpture department with, Becky, today, because she was thinking about doing that. And I told her, she wants to end up in Texas. I'm like, it seems like you could probably just get a master's in clinical counseling and then maybe get certified in art therapy, because it depends on what field you want to end up in. Do you want to end up in hospice work, right? Do you, there's so many fields, and also like, how are you with, each state is different. So in Colorado, I can't accept insurance as an art therapist, but in New Mexico I could, in California I could. However, I can't accept insurance as a clinical counselor or an LPC. So it's all different. But
wow.
The main thing is you need undergrad, graduate, you need 4,000 supervised hours, which you also have to pay for after school. And that's going to take about 6 more years. So you might as well become a psychiatrist. Essentially, you need to be dedicated to it. You're a doctor.
Yeah.
So it varies state to state. We, in our previous conversation, you had mentioned that art therapy, the idea of it kind of varies from region to region across the United States. Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm going to try to do it in a good way. There was, and again, I'm going to get shit for this, but it's so true. There was this one class I had, and every day we had this class. It was just like the teacher was like, I'm so sorry, we have to learn this because that's what keeps us accredited. There was this book, and this is primarily done in the Southeast or on the East Coast. There's this book on like assessments, which ironically, I know the kid that was tested on, like personally, for these things. So some people believe that, or some areas of art therapy believe that if you draw something, it means something, right? So the one that sticks out in my mind, which I hope this isn't too offensive to talk about, if a child draws a tree and it has a hole in it, like where the squirrels go, it means they were raped. And that's what you have to write in your clinical notes. And that is bullshit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you just draw a tree, like maybe, so draw the sky, color the sky. The sky has to be blue. If the sky isn't blue, if you draw the sky, or if you color the sky purple or orange, that means something else. That means there's something not right up here. And that just makes me sick to my stomach. I mean, that's just ludicrous to me. So that's a thing. So it seems as though like the Southeast kind of has its thing. And the reason why they do that is because it's primarily they use art therapy for hospital crisis intake. So they're using it mostly on kids, not on adults or vets or lots of people, right? So That's what that means down there. The more west you go, the more open it is, existential it becomes. The Northeast is pretty cut and dry with a lot of things, but and the Midwest is a lot more open. Like, I don't believe you need to have as many credentials in the Midwest. Like, I know someone who she went to school for ceramics, decided to get her bachelor's in art therapy, which is apparently a thing I didn't know about. And now she's an art therapist, but that's not an art therapist out here. That's not like being a psychologist out here, if that makes sense. So there's lots of different ways, which I think is just like a big underline of always do the research on where your art therapist went to school, what their credentials are, read their backstory, figure out what they're skilled in. And if that's the only one that you find that's in your area that you want to go see, give them a call and see if they know of someone else, or other options. Like, there's lots of alternative therapies that are creative, poetry therapy, for example, music therapy, equestrian therapy, right? Because those are still all kinesthetic, right? You still use your hands, so I worked on an equestrian farm for autism. Kids with autism are on the spectrum, great with it. Do that. That might align better with them than making art, Again, yeah, everyone's different. Find your right person, and that's it. And even if you find the right person, it might still not be the right person. Always explore, figure out your options. Because they're there. There's plenty of us out there, and we are all very different. So
yeah.
Again, I was the only visual, like, emerging professional, whatever, artist in my entire school. We had, anthropology, like, so someone got their like degree and like not tarot, but something like that. Like, there was an astrology degree. Like, there's so much stuff out there. Right. Just, and if anyone listening has any questions and wants anything particular, and I'm not a right fit, which is completely fine, maybe I can refer you to someone.
Cool.
You mentioned earlier in the podcast about doing something nice as far as writing a postcard and sending it to somebody, especially in this time.
Yes.
Earlier in the whole COVID thing, you started making masks for people. And giving them to people in need and your neighbors and all that. You said in this article, you were sticking them in your neighbors' mailboxes.
Oh, you read that article. Yeah. Ha, cool. Yes, right.
That's another way to give back. And I always feel like there's no better feeling. You can't buy it in a store. There's no better feeling than to give back to your community in some way, shape, or form. Whatever that is. That could be, we just got snow here. It could be shoveling your neighbor's walk, or
do it,
carrying groceries for an elderly neighbor, or whatever. Yeah. But
mow their lawn.
You put to use your sewing skills, and we're making masks for people.
Yeah, I had a lot of random fabric because I'm a hoarder, because I dumpster dive, right? This fabric did not come out of a dumpster.
Glad you clarified that.
I will say that, even though I have plenty of fabric that came out of a dumpster, I did not do that. But no, it was like some really good Frida Kahlo, like designer 90s. I don't know how I inherited it. Oh, someone was leaving town. They gave it to me. I have so when this happened, especially in Colorado, it was a total freak out. There was no fabric. There was no elastic or whatever. I used to, through Denver, maybe I shouldn't say their name, a place that I used to work at, I helped here locally. I helped people who were coming out of prison reintegrate into society. And I started a thrift shop for them. So that involved like writing grants to Men's Warehouse, give us some suits. That involved like, give us some hair weave, like give us deodorant, give us everything. I got a bunch of shoelaces, and I'm talking like a 18-inch by 18-inch square box of unused shoelaces. And then I had from this friend all this fabric because she was moving in, or she was getting married and moving to another place and wasn't going to bring it with her. And so I saw, well, I have these materials. Those are good enough, right? Like, no, it's not no, it's not pretty, right? But like, it's going to work, functionality. I was not doing well at the time. I was actually very manic, depressed, fear, stressed, freaked the fuck out, could not sleep, because I have a niece who was born with fluid in her lungs in Chicago. And she can't, what is she, 5 years old now? And every year for about 6 months, every year she would be in ICU and she would almost be dead. Like, it was, so that in particular, on top of having parents and grandparents, not to minimize them, but that was just like, I went manic. So I channeled my ADD and my anxiety, and I went to town and I sewed for hours a day consistently, just making masks. Like, I just looked it up. I didn't know if it was right or wrong. I also have an aunt who's the nurse of an ICU unit in Huntsville, Alabama. And they didn't have enough masks out there. And I mailed tons of, I made over 270 masks. And so then I'm in this kick, and of course, like a lot of my family got them. They're like, we're not wearing Frida Kahlo heart, like, this isn't cool, man, but I'm like, it doesn't matter, and so, God, I spent like hundreds of dollars on posts. I just had to do it for my own peace of mind. So I did that. And then I just couldn't stop, so I was just putting them in my neighbors' mailboxes. Mutiny, again, who carries my book. I messaged Jim, one of the co-owners. I'm like, can I make them for your employees? Because you run your own business too. Also, like, you might not want them. Some of them are made out of tablecloths that I have and I ripped up. Like, I destroyed all my clothes, like everything. But give them to the people that come in and are on the street. Just give them out, because it doesn't matter who gets them. Just give them out. But yeah, that's a prime example of me struggling with my mental demons and what can I do to help. My caretaker archetype, if you will. But yeah, I went through the neighborhood with gloves and tongs and put them in mailboxes and a little note like, hi, I promise this, in a little Ziploc bag, like, I haven't touched it. I hope I saw like a few people in the neighborhood walking around with them. I'm sure a lot of people were just like, but anti-maskers, whatever, that's not my business. But yeah, I just, you just do what you can, and I see people charging for them, and I'm all about that. Like, I think that's good, but and I could have used the cash, but I just couldn't go there. I was just take them. And then it was funny. My buddy Blair Schulman, who is an art critic out of Kansas City and New York, just randomly saw me on Instagram and was like, I want to interview you. Who are you with? And I was like, what? Who am I with? I'm very lonely. It's COVID, man. Like, I'm sewing. And so I sent him some too. But yeah, I don't know. That's just what else are you going to do with your time?
Yeah.
I heard everyone was already tired of TV by then. So why would I even try? It's just, yeah, I forgot about that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I just thought it was really cool that you took that on and you put your skills to work, and we're helping out people.
Yeah, thanks.
Anything
you can do,
right?
You don't even have to have a high school education. You don't have to do anything, like, just take care of humanity. We're all on this falling
together,
apart,
right?
snowing ash planet, just do the best you can. And I think that's the whole point of it, right? At least I hope so.
So going back into the psychotherapy, there is no normal, right? Like, nobody's normal.
No.
That
would be horrible.
We all have our things. We all have our hangups. We all have our issues that we're dealing with.
Big time.
Even more, during this time of COVID and the divide politically and all the racism and the riots and everything else that the world is trying to throw at us right at the moment. What are some of the tools that you could suggest to people that might be struggling right now? What are some things that you can do to help your mental state? Aside from, we just talked about helping other people. That's always a good thing. It gets you out and doing something and you'll feel good about it.
Yeah.
But what are some of the other things that you would suggest?
Whatever you can. So my coping mechanisms was some of it. So also being from the South, Colorado's the first place I've never not been a minority as a Caucasian. So the Black Lives Matter has really hit home for me. I was out there volunteering as a therapist, street team medic. I don't know if it's anything, show up with water, right? Now it's really scary. Write a postcard in the morning to take care of yourself. I'm prescribing everyone do the mandala. Take 30 minutes alone. Don't go onto social media. Like, I know that's taboo. That's how you do your business. That's how you connect with others. But don't do that for the first 30 minutes of your morning. Instead, draw. And if that's not your thing, sit outside. And if it's snowing, sit in a corner and look at a textile. I don't know. Just be alone, be silent. I think that's the main thing. Is figure out how to slow down, accept that you are not that there is a norm, but accept that you're not okay and neither is anyone else. And we're all in there together. I mean, that's really it. I mean, there's, you can go on to so many like self-help, like appreciate the little things, and all of that's absolutely valid, but find the guilty pleasure and that's not self-destructive and do that, and acknowledge that maybe there's a neighbor down the street who you always thought was an asshole because he wouldn't wave at you, but maybe he has hearing issues, right? Like, maybe there's sunflowers everywhere. I have them all over my apartment because I pulled them in before the freeze. Maybe pick some sunflowers that are wild and growing somewhere and just put them on your neighbor's lawn. Just anything. Just, and my hope is that will continue, right? I mean, if it doesn't, I think that'd be really sad. So daily movement, stretches. So that coincides with the sensory kinesthetic thing. So how I talked earlier about how art therapy, like it's tactile, you use a thing and then it helps you think. So stretch in the mornings. Take time for tea, even if you don't like it. Daily mandalas. Turn off your social media, like lessen it. I get listening to the news. I have to listen to the world news every day for my job. Don't do that. If you have to, once a week, call your family members, call strangers, write postcards. It's going to make you feel better. Just little things. No one has to do anything big. That's the thing. I think that everyone, I'm not going to get into big pharma, but like, I think everyone thinks that like, maybe I'll feel better if I get on antidepressants, or maybe I'll feel better, if I sell art. I don't know, but it's little things. I just say, I'm going to tell everyone, wake up and draw a mandala, and in the evening, have some tea and reflect on your day and call it a good one or a bad one.
Yeah,
and it is what it is.
I think self-reflection is important. I think just getting out, and a lot of times if I'm having a stressful day, I want to just go out in my backyard and listen to the birds, watch the birds fly, and just appreciate what it is. Feel the warmth of the sun, in a couple days. It's supposed to be 90 up here in Rapid City by the weekend. Just sit out and feel the warmth of the sun and do some self-reflecting and, and realize that, like you said, we're not alone. We're all going through something very similar in, every single one of us. So little self-care is good.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone has something unique in their place, right? Even if they are a minimalist, right? Like I stare at bees in the morning. How weird is that? Like, that's not, I look at bees.
Yeah.
Somehow that calms me down.
I mean, I can see that where it'd be calming.
Yeah, the birds.
I think bees are mesmerizing.
Yeah.
Oh man, they really like death metal. So therapist coping mechanism 101, get yourself a beehive and play death metal and stare at them at the end of the day. It's amazing. AKA find whatever is just weird and very unique to you and just do it. Like you aren't going to find it in a self-help. Like this again is a blanket thing. Like, man, if I could talk to each person one-on-one and say, this is what you need to do, then I could say something great, but you're stuck with mandalas, man. Like this. Yeah. But that's good. Yeah. Get outside while you can. Edit
By the
life.
way, I like the bee video that you posted not too long ago. Maybe it was even yesterday or a couple days ago. You had the flight of the bumblebees.
Yeah.
Flying or playing with the bees flying around and video of the beehive. It's great.
Yeah. Oh no. Fun.
Anything else you'd like to say or discuss before we sign off for the evening?
I don't think so. I mean, to quote the great Joe Dirt, life's a garden, dig it. That's it. I mean, I think I feel like we're good. Like I have, I feel like a lot was said and I feel pretty good about it and I could always say more, but I think death metal, bees, and is a great way to sign off. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your evening. This has been a blast, and I feel blessed for meeting you. So thank you.
Very cool. Same. Keep doing what you guys are doing. I'm an official follower now.
Oh, that's awesome. So, thank you so much. That means a lot to us.
You are part of my week.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Big time.
Kat, thanks again. Do you have any performances that are coming up in the future, do you think?
Not yet. I'll let you know when the next music video comes out. Okay. I'm hoping a month. I'm still learning the editing software, but you'll get to see when I'm in my sound suit and drowning in Granby Lake.
Well, let us know. We'll make sure we get it on
I'll let y'all know for sure. Yeah. Right on, man.
Cool. Right on. All right. Well, on that note, for the Tenant Podcast, this is Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown.
Have a great week. If you're in need of a mental health professional or want to check out Kat's art, her website is katnechleba.com. That's KatNechleba.com.